Best small business loans for bad credit. We're talking about as little as a 450, usually a 500 or 550 and above FICO credit score without collateral, no hard credit checks, and even get this, no interest rates. That's right. I'm going to show you all of that and so much more in this video. But before I get started, my name is Michael from Viral Funding Solutions, and I come out with content like this all across this channel, giving you all the best up-to-date news on the EIDL loans, PPP, grants, alternative private lender options, building business credit, repairing credit, fixing credit, all that and so much more on this channel. So if this is the first time you're watching me, please don't forget to subscribe and click on that bell notification icon so you do not miss any future videos I will be coming out with. Let me get right into this. So currently I'm on my webpage where it's Viral Funding Solutions, just in case you wanted to have a look and were unsure about who I am. There's more information of that down below in the description. I'll also be getting into how this works in a moment. But some of the options you have out there, what you should know is that usually with bad credit comes faster funding, but at the same time comes more of a higher risk, even a very high risk, which thus means more of a medium to higher rate or interest rates. I'm sure you've known this for some time, or if this is new to you, this is just how it works. It's one thing that you're in a certain industry, but it's another thing that we look at your funding details, your fundability, meaning what is your FICO credit score? If we had to look at business credit, what is that for credit worthiness? But if it's not just FICO, we just look at that. Are we looking at the revenue? What is your lowest month within the last 3-4 months or so? What is your average monthly sales, your average monthly revenue, and so forth? There's a standard for your annual gross sales that would probably limit you from going to other options. We look at your time in business. That's a huge one. We'll also be looking at your bank statements just to see things like the starting bank balance, the ending bank balance, the daily balances, amount of deposits, types of deposits, like how many quantity-wise, how big, how small, how many times in a month. And there's more information that we look for in the underwriting process. But just know this, that if you have less than a 600 FICO credit score, ideally, you want to be 500 and above. Now, I'm going to get into some of these with certain places you guys can go ahead and check out, but all information will be down below in the description. But what you should know that anything with under a 600 FICO credit score, we also have to assess the time in business, the revenue, and more. But usually anything underneath a 600, you should not be fighting for and being like, in the sense of you should be disputing what you were given. And the reason being is you have very little leverage when you come to us with the lower FICO score. Maybe your revenue is strong enough, but that does not overcompensate. In a way it can. It could probably get you more funding. But if you have a lower FICO score, that's usually a determinant on the term that you get. So anything underneath like a 600, without getting into the details of what you have to be doing revenue-wise, whether that's 15, 25,000 with a year plus in business to get a certain amount of time, usually anything underneath the 600 FICO credit score, you're looking at about 4 to 6 months of a term. And I know that doesn't sound appealing, or maybe it does, and you're just like, well, I'm going to make profit on this, or I'm going to keep my business stable. But for those of you who are like, well, I'm cash flow negative, not positive on a daily balance, and you're talking about what you're being depositing and what is happening in your accounts on a daily basis, how many sales, how much are you putting in? You know, maybe you have $100 day, then you have a $500 day, then you have nothing, and then you have 1,000, then you have 200. So if it's fluctuating, it would be very difficult for you to justify taking something on for 4 to 6 months, at most 6 months, if you have a less than sufficient FICO credit score. So just be aware of that. And that can also disqualify you for getting some type of a weekly or monthly repayment. And these are not like the EIDL loans where you're giving this a lot amount of time. You're giving this monthly term and longer and so forth, these types of payments. That is primarily used for survival money. You can come over here and use it for the same purpose, but just understand that if you make it your primary purpose, just have sufficient cash flow. That's what we'll be evaluating on. We don't have to look at collateral. And there are other forms where we can look at that if that's need be, but you still have to meet the minimum FICO. And if business credit is required, which for some of these they won't be, then we'll go from there. But one program that I highly recommend you go through would be the David Allen Capital link. This is where we can get you up to 2 million incredibly fast funding, approved within a day, funds deposited within 1 to 2 days, as much as a week, depending on your profile and how heavily we would have to go through it in the underwriting process and through our lenders and so forth. So this is a program that I highly recommend, and I'll leave more information of David Allen Capital Inc. down below in the description. This is more of a cash advance, not technically a business loan in the sense of what state you're in. You can consider it that. Well, that's what it would be under. But these are cash advances that are given to you, and you would expect to be paying them back, obviously, in an allotted amount of time. Generally speaking, you get 4 to 24 months, and it's based upon the receivables, right? What are you depositing? How many times are you depositing per month in your bank statements? And that'll all reflect when I'm able to see that, when we're able to see that, and so forth. So here you can see there's more information. Quick funding up to 2 million when the banks say no. The idle loan says no, or you did get one, but you're looking for an alternative to add on top of that, or you just can't wait any longer. This is what I highly recommend. And again, information of them will be down below, but you'll want to keep listening so I can thoroughly go through it. So business funding up to 25,000 a day is another option you can get with just 6+ months in business, 5,000 plus monthly in sales, a business bank account, a 450 plus FICO credit score. Usually we want to bump that up to a 550. So usually nowadays, anything underneath a 550, unless you have sufficient revenue, you have a strong enough profile, then it won't really work. But if what we're looking at with this specific service is 550 and above. So don't be surprised if you got declined because of that FICO credit score and maybe some other parts, but you want to have that EIN number. And at the time of this, we also have a program coming out here soon for 1099 gig workers, Uber, Lyft drivers, grocery delivery, etc., where you can go ahead and get between 300 to 5,000 more or less. That can be shifted, but without having to supply your FICO credit score, we won't even be looking for that. Or you have to have a business banking account, business checking account. You can have a personal banking account you're using for business. And that's what we have now. It could change maybe over time by the time maybe you're seeing this, but that's what we have. It'll be coming out soon. It's not out at the time of me making this video, but as of May 1st, 2022, around that time or so, should be coming out more or less. And we also have the line of credit program where you can get between 5,000 to 100,000 currently. Now, the maximum may change over time, but you can take the funds and use them however you would like and withdraw the funds whenever you would want to. And what happens is when you, let's say, get approved for 50,000 and you only need to use 20,000 of that at once. So you only get 20,000 you take out, there's a withdrawal fee, always most of the time, and you only pay interest on that 20,000. And it can be lower than getting on a lump sum where you would pay more and you expect this repayment already really quickly, as opposed to the line of credit. And then when you pay that off, it becomes a revolving line. So you can put it back into the original 50,000. It doesn't become 30,000 now, it becomes 50,000. It becomes the original amount you had asked for, and then there are increases and so forth over time. But it's all about building that relationship up, and that's how you can get funding. So receive approval up to 100K, take funds out as you need, automatic weekly repayment, new draws, and revolving limit. Listen, you can also get business capital, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, up to 2 million incredibly fast. Whether you have a bad credit score or not, this is very sufficient. If you're somebody here watching who has above a 600, above a 625, 650, 700 and above, and you're asking yourself, what would I need to do to get funding? This is the alternative way. This is what could be very helpful. Sure, there are SBA 7A loans, there are 504 loans, but if you have bad credit, that already automatically disqualifies you. If you don't have the revenue to meet that, you won't. You may offer some type of collateral. You may ask if I bring a co-signer, if I bring somebody to sign in for a FICO, but are they a part owner with you? How much ownership do they have? And what authority are they given, and so forth. So there are more details than just saying, well, I'm trying to get the lowest interest. That's why I want this monthly payment with 10-year terms, with just, you know, the best terms out there and the lowest repayment. And that's what I want. But that's not always a given, especially if you have bad credit. You're very limited. And like I said in the beginning, you are not in a position to get any kind of leverage. I have many people that come through here and a lot of other places every single day who not only one get disqualified, but two who get presented an offer and then they go, well, and I let them know ahead of time what the expectations are. And I'll let you know how. One way, there's this questionnaire form that I'll leave for you down below in the description, where you can complete it and get a personalized and customized email response for your best funding option and options. Plus, you will get a free 6-step pre-approval lending checklist to get you approved for funding much faster. So you're not wasting time. I'm talking about days, weeks, months, and even years of sifting through old, outdated, scammy type of information that just does not work. This will be up most to date and really help you in your specific industry to thrive, survive, and do anything you need to move forward. So it'll look something like this. It's very confidential, safe, and secure. I do not give this off to anybody else. I'm not a creditor or anything like that. And again, it's just between you and I. It's a mediary where I'm going to give you an email response very thoroughly, by the way, unlike what anybody else will show you. That'll be down below to get in contact. Now, coming back to this, some other options here you have are like the same thing falls underneath the revenue-based loan and merchant cash advance, or a hybrid cash advance is primarily what's dealt with here with David Allen Capitals, which is why I recommend it. And it can be generally less expensive than having these longer terms. You're in debt for much longer and you're paying on added interest over time that becomes much more, as opposed to going towards the principal. You pay it off earlier. I have had people, who have low credit scores. So in 6 months, they take it and they go, yeah, I paid this off quickly. There's no other option. Or even if it was another option, they take what they can get and they're like, well, I can just pay this off fast. If I need more funds, I'll come back and get it. I don't have to be in debt for this for 2-3+ years. And there's people here who do a lot of revenue per month. And we're talking about over 100,000, over 500, over $1 million that I deal with. And a lot of them, as opposed to going through, well, for one, the FICO scores can be an issue. But if they had great FICO scores, they don't always tend to go for the longer terms with the monthly payment. They don't need that. They want to pay something off as fast as possible. So instead, maybe we get them the best because they're an A-paper lending client. So we get them 18 months. And at most 4 to 24 months there, right? And so if they take that and they get a low rate, like, well, that's great. I'm paying maybe over $10,000 a month, but still I'm paying it off in 18 months. I'm not wasting another 5 years to have this. And if I needed more, I'll come back and get it. And this is a great alternative to the idle loan, but don't just use it as survival money. Don't just, if you're already having a cash flow problem, what I want you to know is that it won't help you to get a lump sum, because you'll always look at the repayment. You'll always just think about the interest and the term, but what you ultimately have to look at is your repayment. So what am I paying on a monthly, weekly, biweekly, and even on a daily basis? You have to ask yourself that question. Sit down, talk to your accountant if you don't have one, it's yourself or whoever you deal with, and go at it that way. And that's the best way to deal with this. Now, that'll be the best format to go into. And then you also have forms of equipment financing if you have a low than sufficient enough credit score, but you have to make up for it in revenue. Here we're asking for $30,000 per month. That's specifically equipment financing / leasing. Personal startup loans usually are out of that question. And then SBA loans, 680 and above FICO. You also have business term loans. You can secure it, or you can have unsecured. Secured with collateral, unsecured without collateral, but those generally will be my last option because they carry the most higher interest. But if you really need that in the time that makes sense for the use of funds, then by all means. But if you qualify it, it's a whole nother question. So just to recap on this video, the best small business loans for bad credit, it can get you a bit limited because you have that credit score. Now, if we're getting above the 600 range, anything underneath 600, usually you may have sufficient revenue. And I speak to business owners on a daily basis who have great revenue, but then have also low revenue. Some like very well, and then they have a 580 FICO, 550, they can qualify, but they're going to get the least amount in terms. Is that okay? And maybe a reduction in the offer, and perhaps what they were wanting, because we don't see it in their credit history that they can even handle this. They have a bad credit score already. Why should we give them the most that they can get? But what I tell people is, hey, if you don't get everything you want all at once, what you should do is then come back after you paid off about 50% of that. We can look into refinancing, or about 45 to 65 plus days, and then get you the next amount. If that's the next full amount, or we keep getting you the most and most. A lot of people do this, and it's all about building that connection and that relationship up with myself, the underwriters, and especially the lenders. And if you're not willing to go out of that way to do it, then it's going to be just a very tough road for you, not only with bad credit, but good credit and beyond. And what I say too is make sure you really understand that, hey, if I get an offer that is too much for this repayment, and I go, well, it will never give you something you can't handle, because we look at all this and you say, well, let's say, for example, 50,000, that's too much. I'm paying $400 plus or 600 plus per day, and weekly it turns out to be this, monthly this. Well, let's actually do half of that. Can we do 25,000? Then that probably drops your daily payment by half. And that would probably be more something you'd be more comfortable with. But you also have to understand the structure and organization of your business to move forward. So just to recap, you have revenue-based loans, merchant cash advances, hybrid merchant cash advances. You have forms of equipment financing. If they require a low FICO, they'll also require more revenue though. Some don't require any revenue, but they require a higher credit score. SBA 7A loans, out of the question, 680 and above. Business term loans can help you qualify with as little as a 500, and you can also secure that with collateral, but it's not always going to qualify you. The funds have to make sense for you to get 2+ years. And if you don't get that, don't be upset that you don't get the best terms, don't get the best rate. What you ultimately have to understand is, does the benefit of taking these funds exceed my repayment? And if it does, then I would definitely want to move forward with it, right? Benefits up here, repayments down here. If it's just close like this, I wouldn't say so. Maybe it does push you over the edge and you understand your ROI, then you go for it. So it'll look something like this when you get started, different application process depending on the type of service you go through, but it's very fast, safe and secure, 100% online application process. Get in and get out as fast as like that. Again, it's very safe. Upload 3 months of bank statements, copy of your, excuse me, burping over here, had milk this morning. And it's not good to mix it with some vegetable juice that I just had, but you want to be able to upload your copy of your driver's license, your voided check, and just about 3 months of bank statements. And it just depends on the amount you're asking for. So anything usually underneath 150,000, we won't have to ask for your recent tax return or your year-to-date financials, such as profit and loss statement, balance sheet. Anything usually over 100, usually over 150,000. If you get approved for that, we'll ask for that, and that can take a little bit more time to get you the fund. So you have to also think about, like I have had people recently who do millions, and they get approved for that. They get approved for 800, 900,000, above, more or less than that. And what happens is they say, well, I don't want to wait too long for the SBA loan. I don't want to wait 1 to 3 months. I can't, or I don't want to wait 3+ months in case I don't even know if I want to get funded. And so they come here, they take a minimum of 150,000. They probably try to figure out what's happening there. Or if they get 150,000 now, then they come back and they pay off as much as they can in about 20 days, 45, 65, add-on funds, etc. Then we look at getting them another 150,000, or next time you get more and you want to supply extra documentation and so forth. So by the time you're done, it's like you got everything you need. And you really have to ask yourself, do I really need all the funds at once? I always ask this question. People are like, well, no, I needed 250,000. We can approve you for 150,000 with your funding details, but do you really need it all at once? They go, no. But you feel like you'd want to have it all at once, so you don't have to deal with this again, one. And then two, you don't want to have to start all over or have it come back. It's about building the relationship. Don't let that stop you in the way of getting your funds. So if you got 150,000 approved for now, well, next time we can get you approved for more than 150,000. Perhaps the next time you come around and get more funds, we have your full 250,000. All you have to do is get another 150,000 plus or more or less to get you to 300,000, and now you're kind of over. And so it just depends on what you need. But these options will be down below in the description. Again, quickly, I just recapped, but I want to say this, that you will be limited in terms. If you have, I deal with you guys every day. I know the business owners who have less than a 600 FICO score, this amount of revenue, this on their lowest month, this on their average time in business. We still have to look at the bank statements and more. I understand that there's always going to be a lot of backlash, and I don't want this offer. They don't get approved. It's like, well, I didn't get what I wanted. And so I communicate this stuff with you, and I have no problem with that. I love helping you guys. There's nothing wrong with having a bad FICO credit score. Just know that you'll be more limited as opposed to somebody who has 600 and above, 700 and above. They have greater revenue. They're considered an A-paper lending client. If you have anything underneath that, you're B to C to D plus. You don't have the revenue. You don't have the time in business. You don't have the credit score. You don't have leverage here. You're over leveraged. And this is just the reality of it. And this is why I kind of blame the idle loans for just accepting the most amount of people. And it just programs you to think that what you can get there is going to be just exactly the same over here. And it's just like, no, the lenders got to move their money. And this is another thing, if you have an offer on the table, do not wait too long. Either accept it or decline it, but don't just leave it on the table, because the lenders have to keep moving their money. Sure, we might have your file on hand when you come back, but we may even get you a reduced amount, or it may not even be there anymore. And the thing is that they see if you're applying for all the other places, especially if you get an offer and they go, this person, I'm not going to share with them. So you just missed out on the best lender. on the best provider who could have helped you in the best way possible. It's like on the show of Shark Tank, I'm out. That's what happens. You're dibble dabbling. You're like trying to one thing to check in with one shark. They'll give you that time, not all of the time. Go ahead. And they go, you know what? They're giving you an offer. You're not being appreciated of that. You're just trying to find what the best, lowest price is. I'm out. And that's what tends to happen with low credit scores is you're looking for the best, but you're also battling for the lowest price. And you got to have that out of mind, and you got to focus really on the repayment. If you don't get what you wanted, if you got an offer, but it's too much, scale back, get less, get half, get not even half, 75% of that, or more or less, whatever feels more sufficient, but I'll communicate this stuff with you. Now, that will conclude everything in this video. If you would like to learn more about my services and how I can best help you, then I'll leave more information down below. This questionnaire form, very safe and secure. Make sure you fill it out. And again, I don't deal just with with one specific category, one specific industry. I've seen it all. I know this is psychology because I've been in this position and I know how bad it can be for you. I get your pain of trying to go from one lender to the next, being declined here and there, insufficient this and that, non-sufficient funds, negative days, your bank balances show this, and you're just trying to knock on every door you can. It feels not so natural, and in a way it does, but you just keep doing it and doing it. Nobody's opening up the door. If they do open it up, they go, no, thank you. Or they look out the mirror, you clearly saw them, they saw you, they turn around, don't give it a second thought, and they go on with their day. And I know how bad that is. And I'm just trying to help you, with my businesses that I've been able to get funding for, not just as recently, but what I've been able to do with those and being able to start from scratch and being able to build myself up with monthly revenue, having that credit score in place, time in business, and so forth goes a long ways. So what I recommend you do, if you have a bad credit score, look for my FICO video down below, how to fix it, how to increase it, so you can be well aware of that. And also, if you fill out this questionnaire form, chances are most likely I'll send you that link to that video in there as a bonus part of the material to increase it. So focus on increasing, fixing your credit. And I'll leave information more of that down below for repair and so much more. But that's what I would do. And you come back and we can probably approve you instead of 6 months. You had the revenue. So, okay, what we just needed to look at was the FICO. Then you improved it. Now we can get you maybe 7 months. I know that's a huge difference, actually. You might not think it. Like, that's not like 2+ years. But then we can say, well, now you have above 600, you have 25,000 plus per month, generally speaking. And so at that point, we can get you between 7 to 11 months. So now you're pushing it up to 11 months, not quite 12 to 24 months, but we're pushing it even more. And you always have to understand how much funds you're taking and stop going from one person to the next, or one trying to stack offers, because that will get you disqualified. All right, so that'll be everything from me. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please voice them for me down below in the description. And for all material to get started, even on your application, what I recommend, you can go ahead and start down below. This is not the application page. This is a questionnaire again. But for all other information on funding programs and so forth, like David Allen Capital, I recommend you check out down below in the description. It will go more in depth with those videos and just to show you what those rates and terms are. But just expect that when you get fast money, with bad credit especially, the medium to higher rates is what you're going to see. You're going to be pushed on that side of the equation more. And there's so many more opportunities out there, especially if you increase your FICO, you have a better fundability profile and so forth. So that'll be everything from me. Thank you for watching. Talk soon. Bye.